Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, a man whose mind was a steel trap for detail and whose intuition bordered on the supernatural, found himself in a predicament that even he, with his years of experience navigating the murky depths of London's underworld, couldn't quite comprehend. He was running from Silas Thorne, a man whose influence stretched like grasping vines through the city's power structures. A man Alistair had dared to cross by exposing his web of corruption. Thorne had retaliated, framing Alistair for a crime he didn't commit, forcing him to flee into the unknown. He hadn't expected to stumble upon Shadowfen. Shadowfen was not on any map Alistair had ever seen. He had been driving for hours, guided only by the increasingly erratic GPS signal, until the dense fog swallowed the car whole. When it finally dissipated, he was confronted with a sight that defied explanation. A village shrouded in perpetual twilight, where the sun never rose and the moon held dominion over an eternally dusky landscape. The buildings were old, constructed from dark, moss-covered stone, their windows like vacant eyes staring at. He parked his battered Ford Anglia on the outskirts of the village, the silence broken only by the chirping of unseen crickets and the rhythmic creaking of a weather vane atop the village hall. As he approached the village center, the first residents emerged from the shadows. Their faces were pale and gaunt, their eyes reflecting the dim light like polished obsidian. They moved with a slow, deliberate gait, their expressions devoid of any discernible emotion. One of them, an elderly woman with a shawl pulled tightly around her shoulders, stopped before him. "You're not from around here," she stated, her gaze unwavering. "No, I'm just passing through," Alistair replied, trying to maintain a casual tone, despite the growing unease in his stomach. "My car broke down. I was hoping someone might be able to help me." The woman's lips twisted into a grim smile. "Help is a rare commodity in Shadowfen. We're all just existing." "What do you mean?" Alistair pressed, his detective instincts kicking in. She sighed, a sound filled with centuries of weariness. "Shadowfen is trapped, detective. We've been like this for, well, none of us truly remember when the sun last shone." "Trapped? By what?" Alistair asked, skepticism warring with the mounting evidence of the bizarre. "By the Shadow Weaver," she whispered, her eyes widening with fear. "A creature of darkness that feeds on despair. It dwells in the old manor at the edge of the woods. It is the source of our eternal night." The old woman, who introduced herself as Ilara, became Alistair's guide through the labyrinthine secrets of Shadowfen. Over the years, the villagers had grown accustomed to their fate, their hope slowly extinguished, replaced by a resigned acceptance. However, not everyone had given up. Ilara introduced Alistair to a small group of rebels, led by a young woman named Lyra. Lyra was the granddaughter of the village's former scholar, a man who had dedicated his life to researching ways to break the Shadow Weaver's curse. He had left behind a collection of cryptic notes and ancient texts, which Lyra had been tirelessly studying, hoping to find a solution. They were a ragtag bunch, bound together by a shared desire to restore the sun to Shadowfen. Alistair, initially hesitant to get involved, found himself drawn into their cause. He saw in their struggle a reflection of his own. A fight against overwhelming odds, a desperate attempt to reclaim what had been stolen. He offered his analytical skills and detective prowess to Lyra's research, helping her decipher the ancient texts and piece together the fragmented clues. The text spoke of a relic, the Sunstone, said to possess the power to banish the Shadow Weaver. But the manor was a place of nightmares, a twisted reflection of the village's despair, guarded by shadowy creatures and illusions crafted from the Weaver's power. As Alistair delved deeper into the mystery, he began to uncover the intricate relationships and hidden secrets within the village. Elias, the blacksmith, was haunted by the memory of his wife, who had succumbed to the despair and taken her own life. Maeve, the herbalist, possessed a secret connection to the woods, allowing her to communicate with the ancient spirits that dwelled within. Lyra, with her unwavering determination and fierce spirit, became Alistair's anchor in the darkness. He saw in her the hope that had been lost in him, a belief in the possibility of redemption. As they worked together, deciphering the texts and planning their assault on the manor, a bond formed between them, a connection forged in the crucible of shared adversity. Meanwhile, Silas Thorne's reach extended even to this remote village. He had hired mercenaries to track Alistair down, and they were closing in. He had to deal with the Shadow Weaver, clear his name, and bring Thorne to justice. But first, he had to protect the villagers, the people who had welcomed him into their shadowed world. The attack on the manor was fraught with peril. The manor itself seemed to be alive, its corridors shifting and changing, its rooms filled with illusions designed to prey on their fears. They faced shadowy creatures that materialized from the darkness, their eyes burning with malevolent intent. Rhys, weakened by the Shadow Weaver's influence, sacrificed himself to buy them time, his final act a testament to his enduring courage. In the center of the chamber, bathed in an ethereal glow, lay the Sunstone, but guarding it was the Shadow Weaver, a terrifying entity of pure darkness, its form constantly shifting and swirling, its voice a chorus of tormented souls. Alistair faced the Shadow Weaver, armed only with his wits and his unwavering determination. The Weaver attacked him with illusions, forcing him to confront his deepest fears and regrets. But Alistair, hardened by years of battling criminals and navigating the treacherous currents of human nature, refused to succumb to despair. Lyra, using the knowledge she had gleaned from her grandfather's texts, chanted an ancient incantation, weakening the Shadow Weaver. Alistair seized the opportunity, grabbing the Sunstone and channeling its power into the creature. The chamber filled with blinding light, the darkness receding as the Sunstone's energy burned away the Shadow Weaver's essence. The creature let out a piercing shriek as it dissipated, its power broken. The eternal night that had shrouded Shadowfen began to recede, replaced by the soft glow of dawn. With the Shadow Weaver defeated, Alistair knew that he couldn't stay in Shadowfen any longer. Thorne's mercenaries were closing in, and he had a score to settle. He said his goodbyes to Lyra and the others, promising to return someday. He left them with the Sunstone, entrusting them with the responsibility of ensuring that Shadowfen would never again fall prey to darkness. He confronted Thorne's mercenaries, using his detective skills and tactical prowess to outwit them. He gathered evidence of Thorne's crimes, evidence that he then anonymously leaked to the authorities. He was arrested and brought to justice. Alistair Finch was exonerated, his name cleared. He returned to his life as a detective, but he was no longer the same man. His experience in Shadowfen had changed him, deepening his understanding of the human spirit, his appreciation for the power of hope in the face of despair. He carried with him the memory of the village trapped in eternal night, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the world, and the importance of fighting for the light. The village had thrived in the sunlight, its inhabitants filled with renewed vigor. Lyra had become the village leader, guiding them with wisdom and compassion. Alistair stood on the edge of the village, watching the sun set over the horizon, a sense of peace washing over him. He had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. He had found redemption in the most unexpected of places, and he knew, with unwavering certainty, that even in the darkest of nights, hope could always find a way to shine through.